Nubook 1. From Then to Now. Part 10. Mum had a tear in her eye as she was telling me the experience. I let her be for a few moments. "I'm okay now, Goldie," she said as she began to laugh. "Wow, Mum, you are something wonderful," I said, and then I gave her a hug and a kiss. "What you have told me is so much more than I can even understand at this time. I feel so small in all of this big life. The earth is going to be going through a huge change in the near future. I look at all the openness to the land there is now, and it is hard to imagine that so much of it will be gone. Rebazar has shown me some of the future here, and it does look interesting, but very complex. I can see that it has already been planned that we are to journey to the 7th level. Rebazar has told me about it, but he said that he was waiting for the right time, and that there was no rush, because he didn't want me to become unstable with my physical life here. You and Dad will be going there after this life," I said, as I looked at him. Dad was really tired and had fallen asleep, and we could tell, because he was starting to sound like a bear. "Your Dad already heard the story, that's why he's gone," Mum said. We both laughed for a while and then went to sleep. I went to the other worlds and found Rebazar Tars waiting for me by the ocean. I walked over to him and he greeted me. "You are following the vista of light, the road that leads to the great reality and beyond. Your writings will show what most people could never imagine to be possible. Your mother has shown you from her heart what is real and true. You will someday be the reality that will provide the way to what would seem to be the impossible journey. It took your mother over 1,000,000 lifetimes to achieve what she experienced and told you. The great test of your very being is coming, and you will succeed like no one else. Your life will never be simple because of your very nature. You will succeed because you never give up. Through all the trials and errors of your lives, the real guides have stood by you. Each one of us know what it is like to be shunned, hunted, hated, and sometimes gotten rid of in the name of some idea that people invent with their minds and emotions. Each one of us has been where you are now, and we will always be with you as you continue to move forward. This lifetime is a preparation for the bigger event to come. Only the great eagle knows when that will be. Your forever guide and true love is the light and sound from the heart of that which is," he said. Then Rebazar walked over to the sparkling water and put his hand in the incoming movement of the waves, then lifted his hand with the shimmering water dripping from it. "This is you and I. All life is light. We are all there is, and even more than that. We shall forever be, and continue to realize what cannot be considered or reasoned out," he said. The water began to glow even more in his hand, like many sparkling diamonds that have a life all of their own. "The drops of water have become alive and aware, just like you and I. They will now start their endless journey into the worlds of matter, and eventually come to realize the great wonder that has always been with them," said Rebazar Tars, as he let his hand down and the sparkling drops went back into the ocean. and as they touched the water and the light, they began to grow and spread until there was a stream of light all the way to the horizon as a beautiful glow. Life is always light, and from the light all life is. There can only be the real light. All of what is possible is from the great reality that has always been forever as the true light from your very being. Those who risk all they have will have all there is. It cannot be any other way. Life loves the risk-taker. After millions of lifetimes of searching, you are the sum total of what you are now. And it is always your choice to realize more. I am your friend and guide, and I will be with you as long as you decide to be real. The great reality has chosen you, and you will soon see the future. But for now, keep writing, and all things that are to be will be as they should be, he said. Then he walked back over to me and smiled and said, "It might be time to go to the Pacific Ocean." Then, right before me, he became a ball of light and gently moved up into the sky and blended with the sun. I watched patiently at how this wonderful scene was played out before me. I stood there and stared directly into the sun until I felt Mother softly rubbing my arm. "Goldie, are you going to sleep all day? It's almost noon. Get up. I have some fresh fruit for you," she said as she rubbed my face. I felt like I had some kind of hangover. I must have stared at the sun a long time, because I was rather numb and stiff. "I'm trying to get up, Mum. I had another full night with Reba's Artars. I don't even know which life I should be living any more," I said, as we both laughed as Dad walked into the room. "Is he still flat out?" asked Dad, as he did a roaring laugh. All of us laughed for a while, and I finally got up and staggered around. "Living is hard. I think I would rather work," I said. "That's right. You have to work. You have to write your book," said Dad. Then the cat walked in. "Okay, where's my fish?" he said in his little voice, as all of us laughed at once. As the day went on, I sat and wrote. I have realized that each person can have their own so-called philosophy on life, but to step beyond the borders of the theories that so many of us have been educated by is the best of everything. This is what my book is about. It's about the reality that already is. I know that people dream of something that could be, but very few of them are willing to take on the task of discovering more than what they can dream. There was a point in my life when I didn't know what to do either, or even where to go, but I didn't stop, because I always felt there was so much more than what I already knew. It takes a constant effort to explore ourselves and to learn to evaluate our experience of life properly. At times I have thought that what I was realizing was the ultimate position, until something else would occur in my awareness and show me differently. This is why any form of documentation can be confusing, because no one can follow the same idea forever, as all things become outdated in a very short time. Unless there is someone who has the real connection to the sound-light reality, then all written stories and ideas, no matter how supposedly divine they are merely words on paper, because the true reality is only alive with what is real in the very moment it is, which is always now. As I am writing my new books, I can perceive that there can only be this moment, and what I am relating is for now, but soon it will have to be updated to meet the times in which the consciousness of people has matured. I wrote for a few more days while Mum and Dad did their Indian white woman and man life. They are the best of people, and I really did not want to leave, but I knew I had to. I knew that I had to move into the next adventure and see what life would expose to me. The risk factor is a must for those that want to discover the real secrets that life has waiting. If a person plays it safe their whole life, then the end of their life is like the beginning. They haven't allowed themselves the advantage of what is real. The average person is in agreement with everyone else, thinking that the next person must know. This idea only leads to more unconscious lifetimes of basically the same. If I had said no to what my parents were presenting to me, then I would not have had all the realization and experience I have. If a person never takes the risk to find out what else is possible for them, they will never discover the hidden benefits that can only be exposed by their deciding something different than what they've always known. This is how life works. All of us have read so many different things and produced certain formulas within ourselves because of what we have accepted. These ideas become a way of life for so many, and there is usually no moving away from them. I have discovered that there are very few people who will explore the real unknown within their own awareness, and make sense of it accordingly. The world of men is full of the beliefs of others, but very few have the connection to the true reality that sustains all of us. I knew it was time to leave for the Pacific Ocean, which wasn't that far from where I was at now, but it was time to explore. That evening, as all of us sat down to eat the fish we caught at the lake, I decided to tell my parents that I was going to leave in the morning. "Mum, Dad," I said, "I have something to tell you." As I was about to speak, they started laughing, so I hesitated until they were through. "You're not going to tell us that you are leaving, are you?" said Mum, as she was still giggling. I couldn't help but laugh with them. "So you already know, don't you?" I said. "Last night your mother and I were talking with you on the inner. We like the idea of you going to the Pacific coast." I just looked at them for a moment, because they are two perfect people in my eyes. "I had a feeling that you already knew, so it doesn't come as a surprise to either of you," I said. "I read some of your new book, Goldie. It's really good, but way too advanced for the average person," said Mum. "Well, I know maybe in 100 years there will be those who will understand it," I said. "I have to write what I feel and say and what is me. What I have experienced and realised up to this point in my life is far too much for almost anyone, but I feel good about it." They both agreed and said that I was doing the right thing by being myself, and they said my writing showed it. "I have no real concern if people accept you or not. Just knowing you is wonderful, no matter what you decide," said Mum. Then the cat spoke up, as he was finishing his fish. "Am I going to have to ride the horse again?" "Only if you're coming with me, little feather," I said, with a giggle. "OK, I'll do it. I want to see what the fish at the ocean tastes like," he said, and went and found his favourite spot to lie down. That evening we sat in our beds. Mine was on the floor. We talked about some of the years of my youth. As I was being raised by my parents, I was also attending a school for a short time that we had to ride several hours to get to. I would only attend the school a couple of days a week, because it was so far away. Sometimes I would sleep outside the school with several other kids who had to ride long distances also. Our parents would take turns staying with us, and we would have the best time camping out together. Going to school when I was young was so much fun, because I had a lot of friends. All of them were white kids, but to them it didn't matter that I was an Indian. Children are usually not like their conditioned adults. They are more flexible and adventurous. The view of a child is one where almost everything is amazing and fun. The parents of my friends would sometimes act funny around my parents because my dad was an Indian. Dad didn't care because he knew who he was. When some of the parents would talk with Dad, I could tell they were rather startled at what he knew and how wonderful his English was. Dad always spoke to people directly and was always considerate. Even as a child I could see that the other parents did not have any real experience in their lives, only the physical situation they were living. Some of my friends were having real experiences, but they didn't like to talk about them, because their parents did not want them to mention anything out of the ordinary. One night, as we were asleep, a pack of strange wolves came around. That was the night that my dad was with us. He doesn't carry a weapon, and so this situation was very courageous. Dad and I could hear the wolves coming from a good distance away. The other kids were all asleep, but we were very aware of what was taking place and what could happen. Wolves know when humans are around. They are very aware themselves. There were 4 wolves, and they were rather big. We could hear them in the distance, as we were lying around the backside of the school in our blankets. Our horses were tied up about 10 feet away. There was a partial moon that night, so when the wolves were close enough we could see them. We could see them slowly and quietly move into their positions for what they wanted to do. It was an eerie feeling that I had as I watched their shadows move about in the night. At first they stood their distance, I would say about 100 feet away. They stood very still for the longest time and didn't make a sound. There was a real silence to the night as I kept looking their way to see what they would do. I was also watching my dad as he was watching them. Then he whispered to me, "They are trying to decide what to do. They know that we know they are out there, so they want to make sure of what they are going to do. The head wolf is discussing ideas with his friends right now," said Dad, as I cringed at what he was telling me. After a few moments, one of the bigger wolves started walking slowly towards us. I snuggled next to Dad, because I was rather alarmed, as I watched him walk slowly to us, like a sly fox. "It's okay, son. They cannot harm us, you'll see," he said, in a very low and whispering voice. I liked what he said, but I was still jittery about what was taking place. The wolf came within about 10 feet of us, and then sat like a dog on its rear end. My dad scooted up out of his blanket and sat up against the back of the school. In a low voice, my dad began to talk to me. "The wolf wants to make a deal. He's telling me what he wants," said Dad, as I could see his face in the pale night. I was really starting to shake now, as I was wondering what was going to happen next. In a real low voice I asked very nervously, "What does he want?" hoping the answer would be something funny. "Him and his friends want to eat one of us," whispered Dad. I didn't think that was funny at all. I think I even wet my pants immediately. I can't really remember, because I was so scared at the time. I knew my dad could talk to animals, and he was teaching me. But I was too nervous to pay attention right now. I just wanted the wolves to go away. "What will we do, Dad?" I asked, barely getting the words out of my little mouth. "Nothing," he said. "The wolf is saying all he wants is one of us, and that he would leave you and me alone if I let him have one of the other children to chew on." Now I was really frozen stiff. The other kids were my friends, and I didn't want them to be eaten by wolves. But the way I felt right now, I couldn't decide anything anyhow. Besides, what would their parents think? I told the wolf that I would think about what he had proposed, and to give me a few moments to decide which child they could have for their meal, Dad whispered to me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but I was too scared to say any more. My mouth and jaw were so tight I was having a hard time breathing. I decided to just lay there and close my eyes and pretend I was somewhere else. After a few moments, Dad said, "He's getting impatient, and he wants me to decide right now, or all the wolves will attack and take all of us. Don't worry, any moment now we will have help," he whispered to me. Suddenly, from the sky, I could hear the cry of eagles. I knew their sound, and I knew they were coming to help us. All of a sudden, there were more than 20 huge eagles swooping down on the wolves. One of the eagles was so big that he picked up one of the wolves and flew off with him for a ways, and then dropped him into a ravine. All the other wolves ran in panic. They scattered real fast, and were gone in a matter of moments. The eagles circled us overhead a few times and then left. I was so relieved and gave my dad a big hug. "You see, son, there is always help when you need it. Now we can put our bodies to sleep and thank our real friends," he said. I suddenly felt great again. What a neat experience, I thought. I thought about what just happened, and how the eagles came so fast and rescued us. I was so relieved to be able to relax and get to sleep. That night in the other worlds, Dad and I were standing outside of the schoolhouse, which looked a lot better than the one on the Earth. The rest of the kids were not there, just us. It was a bright and sunny day, and as we were standing there, a group of high-flying eagles came into view overhead. They slowly descended until they landed on the ground. Then, just like magic, they became human forms. The man in front of the group was Rebazar. He came forward and greeted us. "Hello, good friends. How is everything?" he asked. Then all of us laughed, and Dad said, "Thank you and your friends, Rebazar. You saved us." "It was the great eagle that summoned us to your aid. We are always more than happy to serve those who are of the real," he said, as he bowed slightly, and then turned back into a big eagle, and then flew off with his friends. The next day, Dad and I talked about the experience as we rode home. He told me to learn to pay attention to the smallest things, because there is always something to learn. He also said that he understood my reaction to the wolves because I was so young. I was about 6 at the time. As we were riding home that day, Dad would have us stop when there was an animal or bird around. He wanted me to practice my communication skills. One of the birds Dad spoke with told him where some wild berries were if we were hungry. We mainly saw and heard birds as they were flying about. Most of them did not have much to say, Dad said. Then we came across a large tree that had a bird in it that was making a sound I had never heard before. Dad wanted to stop and find out what was going on. "The bird is telling me, son, there are some really bad Indians up ahead of us. He is saying they probably wouldn't bother us, but that it might be a good idea for us to rest and wait for a while, or go around the area they are in. Let's just stay here under this nice tree and wait to see what happens, shall we?" he said. Of course, I agreed. We got off our horses and sat against the tree. The bird kept making sounds, not a lot, but just enough to keep us informed, as Dad was telling me what he was saying. "The bird is saying these Indians have bothered some of the white settlers that live on the outskirts here and about," he said. "They are not hurting anyone, they are just being annoyingly silly by scaring people and taking crops from some of the people's gardens," said Dad. The bird flew off in the direction of the Indians, and so we waited for a short time until the bird returned, and told Dad that the Indians had moved on, and they wouldn't be back. We thanked the bird, and then rode for home. My dad always amazed me with his patience.